Call our meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, everyone. First item on the agenda is agenda approval.
Make a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Any public input this morning? Hearing none. Onto the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Any other discussion?
I just have a comment. Because I'm on HIP, I'm disappointed to see how many retailers have applied and been approved. We don't have any jurisdiction over the state approving edibles.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. County employee recognition. Morning, Mike.
For employee recognition today, in the Highway Department, Scott Pfeiffer, Traffic Services Technician, is recognized for 10 years of service on June 6th. In the Sheriff's Department, Harley Andrews, Correctional Officer, is recognized for service from December 4th, 2019 to June 22nd, 2026. And Sam Donahue, Correctional Officer, began the full-time position on June 2nd.
Thank you, Mike. All right, highway and survey.
Good morning.
Morning.
I just have the one item today. This was previously brought to a work group meeting in January, and we discussed, and I made some changes that we talked about to the policy. So now bringing it back redone and should be ready to go. I think kind of helping people understand why we have the rules that we have and being able to then follow, why we put entrances where they belong and the width and the size and culverts and everything, so.
Andrea, I just have a question, and this resulted from the work session last week when Eric was here.
Okay.
So on County Road 4, there's a mailbox up by a new driveway, but there's not an E911 sign.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just, do people, and if you don't know this answer, I can ask Eric, but do people get assigned numbers and they can put up a mailbox prior to the E911 sign?
So this might be the scenario. I don't know if it's that exact case, but we get a list of the E911 numbers and we have to order those signs.
Yep.
And it takes, sometimes upwards of a month and a half, 2 months to get those from the supplier. So it could be a case where they put the mailbox up, they were approved in the permit, we just haven't got the sign back from the supplier and then been able to install it. So that might be the case. But typically, no, they should have an E911 with a mailbox. There should be both if they have it.
A lot of times the address is assigned already.
Yeah.
So that people are given their address number.
Okay.
For permitting purposes and whatnot, but the actual physical sign isn't
Okay.
Yeah.
delivered yet.
But they're given the address because they've applied for 911 sign?
Yes, yep, when you apply, you get the address, and it might populate on the property viewer. It might show up there. We just probably don't have the sign yet.
And then, actually, after talking with Eric last week, I've started to notice the E911 signs that are faded or you can't read them anymore. Do you remember what was the cost if someone wanted to replace that? Does anybody remember?
We were just talking about that last night at the 5-year plan. It's about 25 a total, and 35 if you want a post is $10, a new post.
Okay.
It's about 25 and some change to get a new E911. And we have on our website, there's the form you can fill out, you can mail it in, you can drop it off. We'll then order the sign and then you just come and pick it up when it's ready.
And they're the new ones where the number is actually.
Yes, they're printed on
Yeah.
the sign, not the stickers. And we do have a few stickers left. If people just need, like, say, one number, we can just divvy the sticker out, but typically people replace the whole one. And we, about every month or 2 months, we post on like Facebook, you know, we have a graphic that shows like, hey, look at your signs, especially in the dark, so you can see the reflectivity of it. And then this is the process of getting them replaced.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll move to approve this.
Okay.
I have a question though.
Yeah.
The farm or field entrance numbers, no more than one every quarter mile. I can think of a scenario where there's a driveway approach on the property line of two separate parcels. And then the one parcel has another driveway, but the other parcel doesn't have a driveway entrance. So now does that technically negate this other 40 being able to
Not,
get
I
a
would say no
driveway?
on a shared entrance on a property line. I'd say we'd still consider doing one within their parcel. I just actually received a request off of our bypass road, somebody, that exact scenario where they're shared and they want their own. And I think it states in here, though, you know, we still review every application that comes in, and we look
Yeah.
at the locations and what they're asking, and try to work with people if it's realistic and if it's
Yeah, and that's
not
why
a
I see
safety
the
concern.
the note at the bottom, the county engineer reserves the right to deny or approve requests.
Yeah,
So
yeah, Eric
I'm
goes
think-
out and looks at every single one that we get, so.
Okay, so I'm thinking it's kind of like a, not a variance, but kind of a.
Yeah,
In this instance, like you say, you go out there and it's like, well, you know, because a shared driveway,
Mm-hmm.
who wants to have a shared driveway? You know, I mean, unless you
Yeah.
have good neighbors, some type of a situation,
Right.
but, and then, even then, they sell and you get a new neighbor. and-
Yeah, I think the two scenarios that I've seen the most that are kind of geared towards this specifically is one where people have a small parcel and they build a shop and then they want a separate entrance into that shop. But I mean, it's a small parcel, there's not enough room, or it's a congested road, and we just say no. It causes too much turning movements, too much turning traffic, which is a safety issue on the road. And the other one is subdivisions. When people have a subdivision and say there's a couple lots that parallel a county road, but there's a road that's been built specifically for that subdivision, those people are wanting entrances then onto the county road. They have another access point to that property that's been specifically made for that parcel versus adding more entrances, which every entrance you add just causes more conflict points on the road, more safety issues. So those are the two scenarios that really drove this policy and that we've dealt with the most, I think, since I've come here.
And just to clarify, if there's an existing driveway
Mm-hmm.
and there happens to be 2 or 3 driveways in that quarter-mile stretch, you're not going to go out and say, we only want you to have one.
No, no. There's been many properties, and even, there's one on County 40, the west portion of 40, where they bought the property. They had a trail existing with an entrance, but it was in an area that I wouldn't even put a driveway in a sight distance. It was in the middle of a hill, and they wanted to move it up, and I said, that's fine. You know, move your entrance, and then you can keep that trail entrance if you want to not have to remove it.
All right, thank you.
And then just to clarify, Commissioner, when it says a single driveway to the residents and farm or field entrances numbering no more than one every quarter mile, that doesn't mean they have to be a quarter mile from the driveway. That's, those two things are read independently, and they would only apply to new applications after the
Right.
point of this approval.
Thank you.
I guess when I was reading this, I was thinking about how people drive in today's day and age. And I'm wondering, is the width of these driveways appropriate?
I actually did a lot of researching into other counties' policies, and then AI research too, which you can't always trust, but, and that was the typical, most of them were say 20 to 24 feet for a residential driveway, and then it was 32 to 34 feet for a commercial driveway. And there are some, again, it's circumstances, you know, there's, in LaPorte, right now, they're looking at building a Dollar General that we just heard about, and so that would obviously be a lot wider entrance because they have semi-traffic turning onto it. So again, kind of a circumstance that would allow for a bigger commercial entrance.
Because when I drive even down Highway 34, just take Aldi for example, seems like that for a commercial operation, the entrance there is really small.
Yeah, for even
People
just
have
two cars.
conflicts trying
Yeah.
to turn. I can't imagine trying to take a semi in there and not obstruct traffic by weaving out into the other traffic lane to make that corner.
Right.
I just don't wanna inhibit, that kind of activity by having a driveway entrance that's, so to say, narrow.
Yeah, and I can't think of an instance yet in the 2 years that people have came and, requested a wider or whatnot, but again, we'll look at it and we'll work with people. It's more, and Kitson, where I was from, these farmers wanted a 60-foot entrance, and it's like, that's a little much. Like, if you can't make that turning movement with your tractor or your trailer, then you need some driving lessons.
But then just to clarify that too, so if it's a farm field, would you be allowed a wider?
You could, yeah, if you needed it for equipment, but I'd still like to keep it within reasonable bounds.
Yeah.
A 60-foot, I can't imagine anywhere you'd need that wide of an entrance.
Imagine the cost.
Right. And then, you think about these extra wide, people right now, they want to widen their existing driveway. Our stance is that you need to then pay for the additional culvert or the material, you're doing the work. So you think about people who do want, say a 40-foot driveway. Well, if we're typically allowing 32, that's an extra pipe, that's extra sections. So it does increase the cost, even on our end, since we supply the pipe, so.
But not every approach needs a culvert.
No, not every part, you're right, that's correct. And that's more, there's a ordinance that deals more with the cost, which we could discuss later if you guys felt the need to want to revisit that.
There was just a couple of, I guess, I don't know if I'd call them typos or whatever,
Okay.
but some inconsistencies
Okay,
in some of the wording here, like the second paragraph. It's reviewing, inspecting, authorizing driveway entrance determined by HD Highway Department. It should be HC Highway Department. It's
Okay.
little things
Yep,
like
I
that.
can see that, yeah.
And consistency and describing exactly whose responsibilities are what.
okay,
Instead of abbreviating it, maybe spell the words out so that it's clear. There's no discrepancy at all. Just little things that I noticed, not a huge deal. But it doesn't change the intent of
okay.
the policy itself, but,
Yeah, same with under construction.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
My brain read what was supposed to be there.
well, that's typical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The clarity, I guess, is what I was after.
and I can make those changes and resend.
It doesn't change the policy. I mean, it's
Commissioner,
just-
you amend your motion to
Yes, I do.
approve with changes?
Yeah,
Okay.
with changes.
I'll agree. Second. Any other discussion, questions? All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
And then just briefly, construction, Adam's out on a job today. 116 is finished. They finished the striping and mailboxes yesterday. Looks nice. They're paving right now on County Road 40. They're working on the base course of the pavement. They finished 50. They're working on 40, and they'll continue working. I would think by the beginning of next week, they should have those roads paved and done, and then striping to follow. And then they're moving, they were awarded that Jackfish Drive project. They're gonna do that quick, and then we also have a maintenance patch up on 45 that Central Specialties is gonna be doing. And then we have a pause, which rarely happens in July, and then we'll get back into the bridges, 38 Bridge in the fall, and then CASA 30 in the fall as well, so.
And after last night's highway meeting there in
Yep.
Rockwood, I did take that road
Okay.
that they were talking about. Yeah, there's some,
There is, and they're, I guess swales is more what I would consider versus like severe dips, but Adam is gonna run up and take a look at them and see if they've changed since he drove them. And then, we could maybe do like a hot box patch, just to hold it for a couple of years until we go and redo the work.
it's kind of surprising it was just on the east side.
Yeah, it's something is in the subgrade that's causing some sloughing on the slopes and.
And like that
drying.
one gentleman said, if you're going 70 miles an hour,
Yeah, I hope you get a speeding ticket first and then drive safely. Yeah.
it was probably somebody, when they built the road, they buried stumps in there.
Right, we've seen that quite a
Deteriorated
bit
over the
recently.
years, and, yeah,
Yeah,
used to be common practice.
I know this is state, but when the detour goes in on the 22nd on Highway
Yes,
71, where does the detour start on the north end?
so the north end, technically, it's at Lake George, is where
So
they're
would someone
pulling.
still get through 260th on the gravel road across from Evergreen?
Our 89 that goes around by Island Lake.
Yep.
They can, so all of the roads will be open, like in between the bridges, but the only ways to get around is our county 89 that goes around by Island Lake there, or on the west side, Becker County, I think it's 152 down to our 32. Otherwise, the official detour is going around to 4 and then coming back down into town. So very, very long detour.
And do you know when that supposedly construction will be done?
The beginning of August. I think August 3rd was the completion date on it. I'm very hopeful that they'll get it done sooner, just because I'm on that detour. That's my route to get to work. So yeah, I hope it goes fast. And Gladen's is the prime on that one, Gladen Construction. So they're a very good contractor.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Enjoy the gravel roads.
I know car washes are going to get busy. That's all. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did we vote? We did.
Yeah, we did.
All right. NRM, Corey.
Hi, good morning. All right, I got a few things here today. That away a little bit. First on the list is we've been wanting to improve the Middle LaSalle County Forest Road for many years. It's been neglected and a lot of parts are underwater just because of the dips that are created. And it's a 1.44 mile long county forest road located in Lake Hattie Township. It navigates between thousands of acres of county lands, and there's actually a lake access that goes off to Middle LaSalle Lake from it. And it's widely used for recreational purposes and local traffic accessibility. And right now it's in so bad of shape you probably don't want to drive a small car or SUV, or I don't even know if I'd take a pickup down it at this point. But it'd be a really utilized road, and I believe it'd be a really big benefit to the county to redo this road and put it on part of the grading plan.
Is
For-
there actually water there this year when it's so dry?
Yeah, so there's big puddles, and I'll say it's a soft bottom, so it's not only water, it's muck too. And it's a snowmobile trail in the wintertime, and I'm sure if we do improve it, the groomers would appreciate that we improve it a little bit. Just a few things that I wanted the contractor to bid on was, first, remove the 4 inches of subgrade, which is that topsoil and that poor soil on the top that keeps eroding and causing these dips and puddles. And then we do have a pile of class 5 that has just enough to finish this whole project. So that was, I added that as part of it. They could use all that gravel for no cost, to lower the cost of this bid. 5 to 6 inches of compacted class 5 gravel, and then to be ditched, and then a crowned at 2 to 4%. I worked with the highway engineering department to write up this scope of work, and I believe it's sufficient. Most of our forest roads are 16 feet, so yeah, I believe it'll be a nice road, and for the local traffic there, they won't have to drive all the way south and then come all the way back up north again. I believe it'll help out the local traffic there off of, I believe it's LaSalle Lake, that's south of Middle LaSalle. So yeah, there's quite a few cabin owners down there that I think would appreciate the improvement. But anyways, the low quote was from Gladen for $87,705. I put an estimate at $75,000 when we were budgeting last year, and I know with rising costs and fuel costs, I think that $87,705 is a fair price compared to the other bids.
And I know Gladens, they've worked with us before, they do good work. I think it'll really help out our department and recreation. And, we do get gas tax money every year from the state, and they do wanna see us use that money towards these roads. And we do have $241,000 built up in that account. So I think this would be a good use for that funding, part of that funding, so. And that is a lump sum bid that Gladens gave, so I don't see us coming back to ask for, more requests, hopefully, so.
I was pleased to see that the numbers came in where they did, especially from the,
Yeah, it's kind of a
Gladens.
spread there, it's,
yeah, I was kind of surprised at some of the numbers, how high they were. But then again, I didn't read through the total scope of the work. You said you talked with the highway department about developing.
yes,
This-
yep, Aaron from the highway department.
So I know you're not a highway expert,
No,
or road
I'm
expert.
not.
So are you planning on having them go out? and
I'm sure we'll have them
check-
help out a little bit,
Check it
yep,
to make sure that things are according to the
For sure.
spec that's laid out, so.
yep,
okay.
yep.
And with the improvements, it's still gonna be a forest.
Yes,
quote, unquote.
yep. So, 15 years ago or so, our department was talking with the township to take over that road, and I think they just threw it off their plate and didn't want it. So we actually had all the timber cleared off the sides and everything, and it just never came out to be anything. So I just would like to just take care of it now, and
Do you think that they would take it over once you build it up?
they could, possibly, but with the snowmobile trail there in the wintertime, I don't know if that's a possibility. And I think that's kind of why they threw it off their table, just because that snowmobile trail, it's a huge connector between like Itasca Park to Bemidji, for snowmobiling, so if anything, it's fine if it stays in our department. It's 1.4 miles to grade, and that won't be much at all to grade 5 times a year.
I could see the township not wanting it because there's no landowners.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, we've got one of those in our township that people want improved, but nobody lives on
Right.
it.
Yep.
Is 105th ours too?
What's
Is
that?
105 ours too?
Oh,
North-south run off of that?
I don't think so. I think that's a township. So, yep.
Do they grade it?
105.
You know?
Yep, that's a township. They do grade that. They grade that all the way to that middle of South Forest Road sign up there, that corner. And I worked out of, I think I told Ted this before, but I used to work in Bemidji for the DNR, and I worked with timber in this area, and that road used to be actually really nice, and I'm just not sure what happened to it, if just, yeah, must not just been kind of thrown off for a while, and I'd like to see it in good shape.
Culverts, et cetera, everything will be put in so the road will stay. As
Yes.
long as you keep it up, it'll stay.
Yes, I'd like to keep it in good shape, and if you've ever been in that middle of Sal Lake area, it's beautiful, and it's almost like you're in Canada or something. So it's beautiful. So
This is Ted. I'll make a motion to approve the low quote, number 1 from Gladens.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
all right, thank you, I appreciate it. All right. Next item is up for our July auction. So our July auctions are usually a little bit smaller than our winter and spring auctions, just because for one reason, there's deer ticks and mosquitoes and everything else, and leaves are on, so it's a little harder to cruise timber. But our fall auction will be pretty heavy, just because we're trying to fill everything in for our management plan to fill in all the numbers for each species. But this auction will still be pretty good. It's 9 timber appraisals for the July 6th auction at $128,823.10. That's the appraised value, and it'll get bid up from there. There's some pretty good sales. I think we'll see pretty good numbers, and timber values are coming back a little bit, so it's good to see. And I just ask that you would approve the 9 appraisals and allow to sell it to the highest bidder. And there was no landowner issues or trail issues or anything like that, so pretty simple one.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second. Just a comment when I was reading through here, I almost thought it was a typo. Den trees, I was thinking maybe that should read dead, but no, then I read a little further.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, den trees, so there's squirrels and.
Oh, yeah, yep, yeah, if there's a
So,
big hole in the side of an aspen tree where a fisher would live or something, we
Yeah.
try to have them leave it.
I'm glad to see that.
Yeah.
That's protected anyway.
We have to kind of be our own wildlife department too, so.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, to answer the question that came up in the last conversation, 105th and 115th, they're both gravel township roads on both ends of that middle.
All right.
All right, the next item, I think there's a few people here from the bike club, but, ever since I've got here, there's been, concern in our department. When I started here 3 years ago, I kinda asked, what are you guys' concerns? What do you think we could see better? And, a lot of the folks that work in the department were concerned about this trail, and we all agree there is a purpose for this trail. It'll benefit the county for sure. It's just that, I would like to see better communication from the DNR on the Heartland-Itasca Spur Trail. So loggers were calling me the other day saying, where can we pile these brush piles that we cut from the trail, or where can we burn these at on your property? And I said, we really don't want the liability of burning brush piles and loggers burning brush piles and, or having stumps or trees piled on the property, because there's a huge disease hazard and then wildfire hazard if they burn it. So I wanted to get a hold of the DNR as quick as possible, because I know they were gonna award bids, just to make sure that everything will be cleaned up once the trail's built. And then, a while ago, I asked that we get some kind of agreement before they send out bids to build the trail, and I never did see one of those agreements. So after I saw bids were open, I asked the DNR that we could get some kind of agreement for crossing the county managed lands. And they did actually send one right before this meeting last week. So this, just, I guess, to go back what's going on here. 2.2 miles are gonna be constructed as part of phase 2. 1.9 of those miles will be on county tax forfeited lands. Our department did not know where the trail was going, until, a few weeks ago. We didn't know if they were just gonna go keep a dozer, keep cutting through the woods, or, I've gotten five different shape files of the trail, so I don't know where the trail's even going. And I think after they sent me these engineered notes, that's for sure what the 2.2 miles are going on these engineered notes from the DNR. For the rest of the trail, I have no idea. It's all proposed, it's not actually set in stone, so. As future phases are developed, the DNR, or our department would just like to see better communication from the DNR before they send it out for quotes, because I see this trail was sent out for quotes before we can even approve the trail going across the county lands. And it will affect, the whole 17 miles of the trail will affect 25% of our timber revenue, as 25% of our timber revenue comes from the land around the trail. It's our main area for aspen, which aspen is our most valuable species. And I've talked to some statewide timber folks, see if they would even come here to do some public input, but they all had to work today, so. It's just a little frustrating that I wish we could communicate a little better, and I talked to the DNR last week, and I kind of told them my concerns, and I said I wish we could maybe have a few more meetings throughout the year, and instead of hearing from loggers what's going on with the trail and how much they're clearing out. And so another issue is 17 miles. I did a approximate 33-foot wide path for 17 miles. That's 68 acres. And that's actually a lot of timber, 68 acres. And the DNR said they didn't know that they had to refund us for that timber. It's really valuable timber in certain areas, especially the pine. So I would like to see some kind of compensation for that. It says in the I guess the agreement, the joint powers agreement, that the county and the state can decide on an agreement for timber value. And I would like to see some kind of compensation for that lost timber.
Well, it's gotta be hard to assess it when you really don't know exactly.
Yeah,
where
I don't know where the
trail's
trail's going, so,
And
yeah.
then I'm a little concerned about future access for logging activities in that
it's gonna
area.
affect us, especially half the trails using existing roads. So if they use the existing roads, we lose those roads for logging. And I understand most people don't know timber value, don't probably know a lot about logging, but it's a huge thing in this area financially. A lot of people depend on timber and whatever, but it's really tough because I just feel like we haven't had any say, and yeah, I just want better communication, and I want to be able to agree on where this trail is going. 17 miles winding through the woods, it's a little concerning in our main timber area.
So I see you have Bunker Hills grouse area designated or it's designated on this map.
Yes.
You didn't do that, but, how do people access that now?
Off the Pine Lake
Lake
Trail.
Forest Road.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So Corey, I got a question. Some of these engineering designs, it looks like they've got the areas blocked out.
Yep.
Are those flagged? Something like that?
I believe the
Joe?
first 2.2 miles is flagged.
Okay, and then they haven't logged that area yet, is my understanding.
No, and part of this we won't ever get into
Okay.
because we can't.
I'm kind of wondering,
Yep.
if this is all marked out, can't we then sell that stumpage
Yeah.
to loggers and have them? I mean, then we recoup the dollars that the timber was worth?
Yeah, I believe we should be able to. I just don't know if they can give the logger the right shapefile to do that, and I don't know if there's a logger that's willing to try to do that, because you have to build landings and.
Sure.
Yeah, that seems like it
Uh-huh.
would be troublesome
The
to
ones
try
that
to get all of that accomplished before construction starts.
Yep.
How do you describe exactly what's to be cut? You're
Mm-hmm.
gonna have a hard time finding a logger coming in and saying, okay, well, I'll take this 33 feet for the next 2 miles. And to be profitable,
Mm-hmm.
I just can't see how that would work out very well.
And the loggers that did call me weren't gonna utilize the wood, they were just gonna pile it on our property and burn it, so, yeah, it's a tough deal, but,
Corey, I have a question. If I owned the land privately where they're doing this now, because you had said you don't know for sure exactly where the trail's going, wouldn't they have had to give me, a private landowner, a detailed?
you would think so, yes.
Then why is the county being treated differently?
I don't know. It's been frustrating. I think stuff has been hidden before I got here. The guys I work with don't even know anything about it, so,
And
Yeah,
Eric,
I-
correct me if I'm wrong, but because we used to meet monthly on this.
mhm.
So Eric, at the time we were still meeting monthly, the DNR continued to change the trail because the trail can't have very steep hills in it. And so I think when we were still meeting, when we disbanded at that point, they didn't have a definite plan, did they? I'm not sure they still have a definite plan.
No.
They're planning it as they get funding.
Yes.
would be my guess.
Yes,
I have no
yep,
idea, it's
yep.
just a guess.
So I just can't see it
Do you,
being,
do you have something to say?
I'm Dave Schatz, I work for the DNR.
Oh, thank you,
for Parks
okay.
and Trails, so, sorry for the oversight with the agreement. Obviously, you guys went to the legislature and got money, everybody in the community, and we started at Itasca and put the tunnel in. We all have the, I think there's an intent to get to Amaville. Hopefully, we can all acknowledge that, right? We got that
Mhm.
built already. And as far as communication, we try to send something out every month, but I guess I'd just like to say, my phone rings all day long. There's plenty of people get a hold of me. If anybody has any questions, we'll try and maybe have some more coordination meetings. I didn't realize that there was a lot of misunderstandings, I'll call it, so we can easily enough work on that. Just a couple of things, the burn piles, yeah, we can have the contractors get rid of those. That's not a problem. They'll just have to haul them off-site, which just costs a little bit more. This thing went out for bid already, it was 2.2 miles, like you said. The bids were under our engineer's estimate and favorable, and we're hoping to maybe start building like in August, not August, the middle of June, to start it with. But of course, if this agreement is gonna hold this thing up, we're not gonna award the bid, or if there's other irregularities with the bid or something, they don't send something. So, but we're wanting to have this in place before we award the bid. That's one of the items that we want to have done. I guess I thought our engineer was out and walked the part that we're planning on building with Corey.
Yes.
That's what he told me. He said he walked it and he straightened it out in a few places to cut less timber so we could have it straighter, and kind of showed him how we'd be cutting and how wide it was. And so I thought he had, talking to our engineer, I assume that he had answered all Corey's questions, but.
Yeah, we did walk at the very beginning.
So you walked the section
So-
that's gonna be built, and that's all for bid anyway, the 2.2
Yes.
miles. So we did walk with that,
Yep.
kind of,
But-
you got a chance to do
Mhm.
that. Because I guess our engineers felt that the county was kind of comfortable. And I know I worked with Corey and our engineers to find out the crossings for the logging crossings. We kind of tried to assure you that there'd be places you could cross to log, and the loggers could go across. Let's see, and the county selling the timber first, yeah, I mean, we can discuss that, but it's already out for bid, and the bidders are assuming that, if we want to get started and award this thing next week, it's just gonna slow down. We're just gonna have to say, hey, we can't reject all bids and kick the can down the road, so to say. I don't know what that does for some of the funding and all that. It might get a little bit dicey there.
So Dave, if I heard Corey correctly, Corey didn't think any of the local loggers would want to bid on that, correct? So what you're doing would stand?
They would work under the contractor to clear the wood, but they would not buy a timber sale from us to clear it. They would just,
That will go through the DNR like it's
yes.
already bid?
yep,
Yeah, it's part of the bid to
Yep.
take it off the site. And
Yep.
like in Bemidji with this storm,
Mhm.
I've got the Heartland and the Paul Bunyan, and with that storm we had in Bemidji, I ended up paying loggers to come in and take it. And even before the storm, loggers don't wanna come in on that narrow corridor, and it's just,
Yeah.
it's just not, and I don't want them driving on there anyway. But anyway, let's see, and as far as the value of the timber, I guess I'll just point out that, I mean, we're spending like $1 million a mile to build this, so, you kind of put it in context, all the way to Amaville, that's a lot of money. But I'm not saying the timber's not valuable, and, hopefully the loggers will likely utilize a lot of it that they're using. Let's see, I guess I'll maybe just stop with that, but as far as the communication, we can easily enough meet a lot more. We apologize for the oversight. There's just a lot of, building trails from Frazee to Detroit Lakes and Boatland. There's just a lot going on. We apologize. We just dealing with the wetlands and the old growth and trying to get this trail built, and that tunnel is a kind of a big deal. We've come a long way already. There's a lot of, this file's already about 3 inches thick, and we're only, 2 miles into it. But we can easily enough try and work together with Corey and,
So I have another question. When you look at the map and there's a trail drawn, one of the maps further in. So, because when Eric and I sat on that last actually in-house meeting, you guys were still adjusting. Have you adjusted, or will the trail continue to be adjusted as you get into it?
yeah, You remember long ago when you guys went campaigning for the money, we
Yep.
kind of had that, and we worked with some private, land.
Yep.
This thing was, I mean, I built a lot of trails over the years with snowmobile clubs and different things, and, when you start researching it, like, we have people, I have about 5 boat landings right now that are tied up with archaeology, for example. And if they find something, hey, you can't do anything over there, and so there could be endangered species, there could be, and like working with Corey, we're, trying to avoid the wetlands, of course. If there'd be any old growth or any, it's constantly, and like you said, with the slopes and things, where, if you have less slope, obviously there's less earth to move, and so until the engineer's actually out, basically the engineer did just a quick, hey, here's where you'd like to see it. But until you get, actually what the biggest problem with it, Char, is the money to design that. Because it takes thousands of hours to do this. For like a typical thing I do, I pay our engineering department, maybe $50,000, $60,000 to build a boat landing. So there's a cost there, and the money's not there to kind of, and the staff aren't available, to dedicate. They're working for wildlife, forestry, and other divisions. They couldn't spend all their time. We'd maybe have to contract it if we did get the money. But we really won't know until, you spend a lot more time on it.
Okay.
We did that
Yep.
aerial survey with that radar, the LiDAR, and it gave us like, what was it, a foot or two?
Yep.
That helped us, and we're trying to avoid the wetlands and keep it as short as we can. We don't want it, like I said, it's $1 million a mile. We don't want to have it twice the cost because we're taking a sightseeing tour. So there's kind of some give and take there. But anything else?
I think there are two separate issues here when Corey is talking. One is this proposed, the current 2.2 miles, right? I think there are fewer concerns about that 2.2 miles.
We're not really concerned about that.
The concerns are making sure that when we're doing the next 17, that we're protecting the county interest to manage the timber and have access to manage the timber as we're doing that, and I'd push back on you just a little bit, Dave, if I could. The shortest route may not be the best route through here
Yeah.
I agree 100%.
for the purpose of the land or the purpose of the trail.
I agree 100%.
Or the purpose of the experience. And I think, I know that the highway engineer has concerns with the proposed getting from Emmaville down to the rest of the trail. I think, the broad scope of it, we've got new staff in both of these departments since this conversation has started. And I think that we need to have a big vision of what this, because we want to get from that tunnel to the existing Heartland Trail, someplace around the intersection at County Road 4, right? And none of our current staff were involved in any of that conversation. That's the bigger picture, the longer term picture, and thinking about I don't think there's a problem with the board approving the agreement to get the first 2.1 miles or 2.2 miles done here today. It's the conversation about the scope of that. Two things, the county relies on the revenues from the management of timber and the access to the timber, and this section, as I understand it, is some of the deepest,
Yes.
most valuable timber that we have in the county, and the most regenerative revenue source that we have. So that's the primary concern. I want us to be a really good experience for a lot of reasons, because I'm a trail user, but at the same point in time, we have to make sure that we maintain those interests. So we've really got two issues. The issue today, the approval of the agreement so that you can go ahead and award the bid for the 2.2 miles. The first half of that 2.2 miles is on state land. And then it kind of meanders off into the edge of tax forfeited land. And I was up there one day to walk with Corey and the engineer. I think we only went a couple hundred yards that day. I don't know if you went further than that later, but.
Yep.
But there are two issues. I think the issue before us right now is not a problem, as I'm seeing it.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's
First part.
it's the conversation about the 17 miles and the 10 miles to complete the route, to make sure, at that point, it doesn't cost much to have a planning meeting and scope and identify what are the what are the things we have to have when we're designing the trail, and what are the things that we can negotiate around. But we do have to have access for the timber management, and I would just suggest that the shortest route through here might not be the best route through here, through here.
You know, that was one of the concerns that the foresters brought up, and so we're trying to not get crazy. I mean, none of us have we're
Sure.
never gonna get to Amabile if we go way up to Lake George.
No.
It's part of the equation. There's many
Yep.
things that go into building these trails that, but I'm not looking for more trail to maintain. I got down to Jenkins and whatever, but I mean, the community and the residents campaigned to the legislature and got this money to build it.
Yep.
And then they'll hand me the keys and say, here, Dave, another one to maintain. But a point I'd like to make, Jeff, is with our engineer, Dean Southard. I've seen him build a lot of boat landings and a lot of bike trails. And I would challenge anybody to kind of bring up a lot of concerns with, I mean, there's people around the state that are constantly telling me, wow, who designed this bike trail? For instance, coming out of Itasca State Park, there's people that would have never guessed that's what it's gonna look like. I don't know how many of you have been on the trail in Itasca all the way to the tunnel, the 2 miles, but there's people that can't believe how he weaved that thing through there, and you know, he's just, I can list 10 people that just are really proud of our engineering department, and he takes a lot of pride in his work, and we'll make sure he's definitely, we'll go out there on this next section now and try and get out there more often and keep in touch with you guys, and I think this can be, you know, I think we all want the same thing. It's just, you know, there's a lot of conflicting interests. Believe me, I go through WMAs with snowmobile trails. I deal with ATVs, horses, I mean skiers. Yeah, there's a lot of different competing interests and a lot of passionate people, and I'll stop talking with that because I'm getting maybe passionate.
So, Dave, I thank you for coming, and Jeff, you did bring up a valid point, that we have had a lot of changes staff-wise
Yep.
here, and so I would
Yeah.
agree, we need conversation.
And to that point, you know, Corey was kind of asking a lot of questions early on his first month here, and so Kent Score, he's a program coordinator for the DNR. Kent and I we got on a phone call, and we kind of we tried to bring up the last 5 years of history with him in an hour, and said, here the board kind of, you know, was pushing this, and here's kind of the vision, but, you know, it's hard to catch up, like you say, we were just talking about that yesterday. There's so many people in the DNR too that are, how do you just plug it in, right? How do you plug them in and bring them up to speed? But,
I would assume that all of the environmental assessment and archaeological assessments are accomplished for this
for the
portion.
section that's gonna be built right now, that's kind of what's holding up, us kind of barging ahead. Well, it'll be nice to have this agreement done too now, but that's holding us up with going a little bit farther actually right now.
Okay.
The archaeologists are just so busy around
Yep.
the state, like if I wanna dig an outhouse or put a post in at a boat landing, archaeology has to approve it. It's just, the pendulum's got, I can't dig or pound a post without archaeology, and so you can imagine,
Yeah.
there aren't enough of them, so that's,
So have you guys had a conversation about, you know, timber access concerns and where
Yeah.
those points would be?
No, we haven't
both
had any.
aware of that?
You know, the first 2.2 miles, there wasn't really concern, but the rest of the way,
Yeah.
there's trails all over crossing that, and, you know, if we could at least have them built up or gravel or whatever,
So I think you just need to, as you go
Yeah,
forward,
yeah.
make sure you're having those conversations with Corey so he can help you identify where those areas are.
and I thought we did that with, I thought you had sent us, Corey, some crossings, and then I'd forward them to our engineer.
for that first 2.2 miles, yeah, that's the only thing I've talked with the engineer on. The rest of the way, I don't really know exactly where the path is going.
The rest of the way,
Proposed.
there's nothing in this that's been engineered or
No,
drawn up. This
no.
is a pencil line on a map to this point, but
We'll gladly, I mean, I've got the Paul Bunyan all the way to Jenkins from Bemidji and the Heartland, and I can think of a couple one place right now, the county's crossing it over by the port logging, and.
Sure.
Yeah, I've heard that, yeah.
And I guess we have had issues up by Guthrie. There's that bike trail there, and we haven't been able to log there ever since it's been built because it's just tough to cross it with logging equipment. But that's a different story. And yeah, I agree.
I've never refused a logger to cross our trail. right now, come up to Lake Bemidji. I was looking at it yesterday. We're logging about 40 acres in Lake Bemidji State Park, and they're crossing the Paul Bunyan Trail. I stopped and looked at it for 10 minutes yesterday and watched them. They're hauling logs out, and
Yeah.
I've never once, if you could tell me in my 18 years here, I've never stopped a logger from crossing the Paul Bunyan or Heartland Trail. So, anyway,
But, yeah, and I believe Dean does a great job engineering too. The bike trails look beautiful, but, yeah, we'll just have to communicate better and, go from there. And, is there a reason why the state forestry land didn't want the trail on their property?
well, actually, that map, if you look at that map, it's gonna go across. Our engineer was looking at the final alignments, and this agreement forced us to do these two exhibits that are, the maps. And our engineer said, whoops, you're going across this 40 of forestry, and we didn't realize that. I mean, it's our own land, but I stopped to see Mike Lickner, the forester, today to talk to him a little bit about it, because I'm working with him on ATV trails and stuff all the time, but just to, what type of an agreement do we want to get with forestry or our lands and minerals department? We just have to figure out what mechanism, is it gonna be a
Yeah.
permit or
And,
changing of custodial control? And so the answer to the question is, we thought it was all county and Itasca State Park until we looked at this agreement, put the exhibits together,
Yeah.
the maps. It's like, whoa, where'd that 40 come up with? Where'd that state DNR forestry come from?
and that is a Bemidji forestry, so you'd probably have to talk to the Bemidji forestry office, but, yeah, that's not,
Okay,
not
yeah,
Park Rapids
the
area.
Paul Bunyan's broke in half. I didn't know
Yep.
where the line was. But,
Yep.
Oh, good, because he wasn't available. He was on the phone.
Sure.
In a meeting, and
Uh-huh.
couldn't talk to him anyways, so.
Yep.
thanks.
And I would just, I know our foresters haven't been involved just because they've been kind of shut out from this until I came along, and, they know more about, there's one guy that's been working for almost 30 years for our department, and he knows about all the logging camps in there. There's a lot of historic value. Heck, when we set up timber sales, we make big reserve areas around these places, but the typical person that drives bike through there might not know about, or has a dozer and they're pushing a bike trail out, might not know about these spots. So just to keep involved with us and, yeah, knowledge is key, so,
Sounds like communicate.
yeah, yep. We want, before you engineer a trail, make sure you end up, send it out for bids, just make sure you let us
I
agree
would,
with.
I would say before even that,
Mm-hmm,
when you adjust,
Identify those
when you
points,
deal
yeah.
with the rest of the scope of the trail,
Yep.
that you get everybody together and have a conversation about what kinds of things are, should be marked and identified and included on there. Because then when you're building the trail, you're gonna find a lot more agreement.
Yep.
And that's the piece I think that should happen, but for today's purpose, I
yep,
mean,
just for that 2.2 miles.
for the 2.2, I don't
2.1.
think there's any objection, it's just,
No.
which way does it go from there?
And we do have an existing timber sale that's sold right now in there, so we'll just have to decide if we refund the logger, or what we do, because,
What's the timeline on that timber?
oh, he has till, I believe, October to cut it, so, I'm gonna push him to try to get it done sooner, because I know the construction starts in August, so. Yeah,
So anyhow, yeah,
communicate,
your
yeah.
groups get together and identify
Yes.
those areas of
Mhm.
concerns early enough, then
Yep.
you can avoid redoing things.
Yeah, I think if him and his
Yep.
foresters can walk there with us, with our,
Yeah, yep.
face to
Yep.
face and walking the same path.
Yep. Yeah, and another thing too, I just wanna make sure that you'll have the right amount of people to maintain it, cause I know there's always holdups on lake accesses from the DNR, and, Heartland Trail and Heartland Park always has issues. Just making sure that you guys have enough people to maintain the trail.
Well, you'll have to talk to your legislators in the area. The ones that approve this would be a good start, I guess, to get me some more
Mhm.
maintenance money. I'm down to about $1,000 in my budget now, so
Yep, so-
if I don't have any money, it's kinda like the county, it's,
Every weekend just the small trails we have in that area, we have 50 trees down, so I can't imagine a 17-mile-long winding bike trail having to maintain that.
I think the DNR needs to reprioritize where they spend their money. I would think not buying up so much land would be a good place to start.
Interesting, yeah. Well, typically like Frazee to DL on this trail, the legislature said, okay, DNR, build this. So here's the check to build it, but anyway, I'll leave it at that, yeah. Yeah, everybody wants more bike trails, but nobody wants to look in the rearview mirror and maintain them, but we're doing the best with what we have.
Eric, I'm wondering, there were so many community representatives from many different areas on the board that we were at. I'm thinking it would be interesting and probably beneficial if we could at some point listen to your conversation, so we could support publicly and let people know. Your thoughts on that, Eric?
Oh, yeah, I've asked if we could have another meeting like we had before COVID, but,
Yeah, I'd be willing to set something up even.
yeah,
Okay.
I asked Corey and to see if we could use the meeting room.
And we did
He said,
once.
"Sure."
We did that one time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we certainly don't have to go back to meeting as often as we did, but periodically.
Yeah,
I would just find it
Uh-huh.
informational wise very interesting.
I would too, because I came into this and stuff was pretty much already set in stone, and I wish I could have been here a couple of years earlier just to kind of help the process and make things run a little more smoothly. But yeah, well,
Okay.
Yeah, I asked if, see, I send out like an update.
Yeah, you do.
To you guys.
Mhm.
And I've asked several times if shouldn't we be meeting, and no one really responds to it.
I guess I didn't see that, but yeah, I'll definitely set up something.
Okay, all right, and I'll make
Yep.
a motion to approve.
Yeah.
This Ted, I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
All right, thank you. I usually don't,
Thanks, Dave.
see you guys, thank you. I'm usually not negative about things, but there's certain things that, for my employees, I gotta try to stick up for them.
Well, and I would encourage you that, to be proactive, to make sure you
Sure.
get the communication.
Yes, yep.
Don't wait for somebody else to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
Get it going soon.
So just to, I didn't know anything about the logging camps. That's really interesting. And so
Yep.
even as the bike path, wherever it goes, if it goes close, I would think signage would just,
Yeah, yep.
it's historic, it'd be a historical.
We just don't want the trail dozing right through it, and I know I didn't want to say much, but there's a couple Indian burial mounds in that area by Beauty Lake, and I just want them to make sure to stay.
And be proactive, because in
Yeah.
fairness to them, they don't know that.
Yes, yep,
And if you don't share that with them,
yep,
gonna have
yeah, for
problems.
sure, so
So it's-
I want everyone to come to the table, because
Yep.
there's knowledge that certain people
be
know that,
prepared with the stuff you want.
and
so
I don't
make sure
even
they
know that, yeah, yep. Yeah, so, thank you, and I appreciate if you guys support us, and, yeah, we support a bike trail, and we're happy to see it starting anyways, so. Okay, last item here, we have 3 leased vehicles from Enterprise the terms are coming up, expiring, and they're still beautiful vehicles, they work every day, and they're not that old, and they have lower miles. One's, or 2 of them are 2021 F-150s, about 50,000 miles on each of them. 2 are Foresters, use those. The cost for both to retain both of those is $5,045.35 total. And the Parks truck is used by Greg mostly, and the Parks folks. That's a F-250, and that has approximately 67,000 miles, and the buyout on that is only $501. It's a really nice truck. Greg's taken really good care of it. And we just don't feel like we want to give them back yet and start over new with those trucks. So we feel it's a pretty good value to purchase those out.
I would agree. I would think those trucks would be worth at least $10,000 or
Yeah.
$15,000. So,
Yep.
a question: are we depreciating these things too fast? Enterprise.
So if we were to turn these in and lease newer trucks, that value of the vehicle when they go to sale would be applied to the calculation of the lease of the new one. So we wouldn't be losing out on the depreciation of that, on the money of that. But because we also kind of shoot to turn these things in around 100,000 miles, and these aren't at that. And these are trucks, 19s and 21s, that we know we can run for a lot more than 100,000 miles. So the thing that's not on here, and I would have to guess, is I'm thinking that if we buy these out cash and then don't lease those 3 trucks, we're gonna be saving $36,000. We're gonna be saving $1,000 a month, right, on the lease payments for those trucks. So that's the benefit in here that's not seen, is we pay cash for these right now, we run them for another 3 years, and we have 3 years worth of not having lease payments on 3 vehicles. So there's nothing about this that isn't an easy decision.
The question though is, I mean, if this is typical, why is Enterprise depreciating these trucks so rapidly and looking to replace them this quickly?
They're
They make money.
Well,
They're-
we're supposed to be saving us money, we're supposed to be doing
Yep.
this at an
Yeah.
optimum
Yeah.
time, and this appears based on your analysis and based on what I know, it's not an optimum time to get rid of them.
It could be that we've paid so much each month that we finally paid them down to that little amount.
The basis is that we're not putting as many miles on these trucks as the lease was calculated for. So it does make more sense either to reconstruct the lease, right? If we do the next ones, we don't do $1,000 a month, we do $800 a month, and we know that we're gonna have a higher payout on the end. And then it makes sense to turn them in, right? Your residual on a lease is the thing that tells you, is this the one I'm gonna keep, or is this the one, am I just gonna lease the next one? And the way that we've moved away from Enterprise and the Highway Department, for all these same reasons, it makes sense that NRM and Highway Department use the vehicles in much the same way. There may not be the value in there that there once was. And truthfully, at the front end, they were trying to get business, right? And at the back end, they're trying to make sure that they have sustainability. With the other vehicles that we have for the carpool and with the law enforcement, it still makes sense because we are beating them up and putting a lot of miles on them. But here over in our Public Works area, we're not. So I think that what this probably means is at the end of the life of these 3 vehicles, we're probably gonna be looking to buy local and replace them rather than go back and lease them. And Andrea's brought that conversation up in several places. I think it just makes sense, but
Yeah, I
because we've paid the depreciation on these, we basically paid for these trucks over the 3 or 4 years they've been
Yes.
leased.
Yep.
That it makes all the sense in the world just to pay them off and not have a continued lease on those 3 lines.
For whatever the reason, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, thank you.
I would just make the comment, if you could buy these 3 trucks for $5,000, would you do it?
I said that last night.
Yeah.
I'd like the $501 one.
And then a few dollars,
That's my
We paid more
budget.
money up front than we should
Yeah.
have been.
We paid,
We're not gonna lose the value.
no, and then a few years down the road, we'll sell them at Cape or
10 or 12
wherever.
years We have the vehicles, that's not the problem, we just,
Yep.
we front-loaded the
we've,
expense.
yes, we front-loaded the expense on these instead of back-loaded.
Yep, and, a few years down the road, we'll probably auction them off and make our money back, probably no problem. And then,
You'd probably get the same amount.
yeah. And next month, we do have 2 trucks that are like 2016s, they're really rough shape, and one of them I drive and one of them Jake, our forester, drives, and we're putting more money in them to get repaired than they're probably worth. So Jake, one of our foresters, is looking at getting quotes for those, and we did budget for them. So
Yeah, so you'll wanna watch it anytime one comes off the Enterprise to have that discussion.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether we
And-
release or just buy,
yep.
yeah.
And I think so we don't put a lot of miles on, and I think if you put a lot of miles on, the Enterprise is the way to go. So I think buying them outright is best for us, just because we don't do a lot of miles, and they're usually still okay to drive after 4 years, 4 or 5 years. Yeah, so,
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
thank you. I have a sweaty back, I was kinda nervous today, so, thank you.
Human Services. Morning, Mike.
Corey? Here. You can go ahead and start, Mike.
Okay. Good morning. I have two items this morning. First one is just a county board resolution for the 2027 Public Transit Operating Application Grant. Looking for approval on this so that Jason can get it submitted to MnDOT. Same language as last year, the 10% local cost share on that. That estimated for 2027 is going to be right around the $81,850. That share then is made up with our fare box revenues and then local contracts for like when DAC uses the buses or, and then we're looking at possible adding some advertising to our buses.
So is that, is the fare box completely covering that or exceeding that?
It's a little shy of it covering that. That's where the local contracts come in, like when the DAC uses it.
Between the
Yep.
two, it's.
It covers it, yep.
Meeting or exceeding the local cost share.
Correct, yep. And then we actually, in 2027, we are looking at doing some additional advertising on our buses with some half wraps, just to drive that a little bit, so.
So Mike, you know, we've had requests to increase the area that is covered. When I brought that up with Jeff, and I know we're having further discussion on this, but just for public information, currently, that would have to be covered by a levy increase, correct? I mean, you don't have any other way to fund increased miles at this time?
Correct, right, yep. And that's something that I know we talk about and Jason brings forth to his MnDOT meetings every time he has an opportunity, is trying to redraw our bubble. I don't have the map on here today, but if you've ever seen it, it's as jagged as you could make something. We do at times dip outside of those lines if we can, if there's a real reason to pick someone up and it's super important, but it's just hard for him as far as drivers go and coverage and miles to kind of sneak outside the lines. But it is on his, I don't know if it's a 5-year, 3-year plan, but he does want to have that reviewed. Part of that would be having our new buses show up, capital improvements to having a more centralized location. So,
I have two comments for being on the Prime West Board. One is transportation is a huge problem. And so anything that we could do, I have no idea what it would be without the conversation. And secondly, that transportation is one of the easiest places so far in the state where there's been fraud. And that was proven at Prime West from the fraud they discovered. And so if we can down the road somehow figure out how to increase that would be positive too.
Well, I would think that one of the easiest ways to do that would be if we increase current use, so that we had more revenue, then we could potentially, if you doubled the amount of people using it, you obviously would have some revenue to expand your reach a little.
right.
But I'm guessing a lot of people that have vehicles aren't interested in using this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the demand has to be there to really
Yeah. Yep.
justify the cost.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
So just clarification again, because I finally got it in my head this year. This is the resolution authorizing sending the application in for the grant, and then at the end of the year, we'll be authorizing accepting the actual grant. So there's always two resolutions with those.
Yeah, this one's due by the end of June, and then Jason will submit his application, and hopefully sometime in October, they send it back. My second item is establishing a new purchase service agreement with Resource Training and Solutions. It's a company that offers guardianship and conservatorships, public guardianship and conservatorships. In the spring, it was right around the beginning of March, a company we use reached out to us and let us know that they have some change in ownership, and then one of their long-term employees who serves about 15 Hubbard County clients is looking to step down and retire. So they did earmark 10 individuals that they would no longer be able to cover through the guardianship process. So we reached out to other counties and figured out who they would recommend, and we did get a good recommendation here on this Resource Training and Solutions outfit. Interviewed with them just through a virtual meeting. Michelle and I did that. We feel strongly that they'll be able to fulfill that need. Since that time, we've actually had 2 of the individuals that were on the initial 10 list are seeking to kind of come off guardianship and try to monitor their lives themselves, and we are in support of that as well. But we still do need coverage. By August 1st is the proposed date to have a new provider in place for the remaining 8. And then we would use them ongoing as needed for any more court-appointed guardianships that would come through.
So will you guys be helping mentor the people that are coming off and trying to make it themselves? Or will they be just doing it alone?
They requested it on their own. I believe both of them are utilizing other services, so they are
Okay,
attached
so
to.
they'll be mentored somehow?
Yep.
Okay, great.
And I believe 1, if not 2, are living in a foster care type setting anyway, so they have natural supports. They just don't need the thumb of a guardianship any longer, so they're
Okay.
returning to capacity essentially.
Are these rates similar to the previous provider?
Yep, these rates for Resource Training Solutions is right in line with the other ones. We do have 3 other contracts, Prairie Support Services, Lutheran Social Services, and Presbyterian Family Foundation. So they're all right in the, they're all real competitive with one another.
Motion to
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is Ted second?
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Environmental Services. Morning, Eric.
First of my 2 items is the environmental assessment worksheet for the county's Deep Lake Park project. The proposed number of dwelling sites in the form of campgrounds and camper cabins at the park exceeded a level in the State Environmental Review Rule 4410, which required a mandatory environmental assessment worksheet be done to evaluate the potential for environmental effects of the park. So we went through that process starting in April with preparing the worksheet and submitting it to the Environmental Quality Board. It was then published in their Monitor publication, and there was a 30-day public comment period. With that closed at the end of May, we received comments from 3 state agencies that are included in the materials in the packet. And as part of the process, now that the comment period is closed, we have to provide written responses to those commenting parties' comments, which I've prepared drafts of in the packet materials. And then it also is at a point where the board now needs to make the decision whether the environmental assessment worksheet was sufficient, or if you feel that further environmental review in the form of a environmental impact statement would be warranted. Based on my understanding of the park as well as a review of the comments, I don't feel that additional review is necessary, so my recommendation would be to make what's called a negative declaration on the need for further environmental review. And to that end, I have a draft resolution included in the packet for the board's consideration, as well as a record of decision, findings of fact, and conclusions that would round out the record that we would need to create in support of that recommended decision. And then if the board would so move to adopt that draft resolution and the record, then to close things out, I will need to provide the EQB with a copy of the decision, as well as sending that out to the parties that commented on the worksheet. If there's any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them.
And I kind of look at it, I mean, it used to be Val Chattel. It didn't seem like there was any environmental issues, and we've only improved, in my opinion, improved the site with the removal of the lodge and the amphitheater, whatever you want to call that, and everything. I'm fine with a negative declaration. Is that what you were saying?
Mm-hmm.
I just have a comment, Eric. As I read through, you did a very nice job. As usual, you were very complete and concise. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I might add, I think that Stuart Crosby was responsive relative to the comments received to provide Eric that data in a pretty timely basis to get this done. Next steps, if you approve the request that Eric has brought before you, is we'll finish the conditional use application and update the variance application. If we can get that in by the end of next week, then that'll be on the July PCBOA agenda. And then we can get Gordon's back in to finish that picnic shelter and apply for phase 2 funding. And I read the questions that came in that the questions that were submitted, or the comments that were submitted, and many of them were of the type of impact of things that hadn't been done. We've only done the archaeological survey for the area under development and not the rest of the park. So we were able to answer that question by saying we haven't done that work yet, and it will be done before that development is done. And then I think the rest of the responses were satisfactory at that point. I think that the MPCA, who were the other responders?
The State Historical Preservation Office and the Department of Natural Resources.
State Historical Preservation Office is spending more time writing comments to EAWs than doing their archaeological work, but that's an opinion.
Well, just an observation. So even what we were talking about, the bike path, and then this, I read an article this week that regulations on the cost of building a house now nationwide is $140,000.
Quarter of the cost.
Yep, and so.
Well, one question that I would ask, Eric, what was the rule that was changed in 2022? How was the rule changed in 2022 to expand the scope of the work for this EAW to include the issues relative to carbon and carbon footprint stuff?
Yeah, so the Environmental Quality Board has the authority to modify the content in the environmental assessment worksheet. And so, 4 years ago, they greatly expanded it to require information as far as greenhouse gas emissions, carbon footprints, and all these calculators that might be worth evaluating on very large projects, but some of the projects that they require this review process on aren't of the scale that really is of value, but what it results in is any applicant that would need to go through this process would now pretty much need to hire a consultant to compile that information, and likewise, on the county's end, it's beyond my ability to review these and do our part that I was able to do prior to that change. So now, fortunately, in this case, we had the consultant that we could use as in generating that information, but for other future projects that this will be required of, we'll have to outsource that part, and that's going to just add to the cost for the applicant because they are responsible for covering those costs that the county would incur in going through this process.
And that's just another example, as we discussed at the AMC district meeting, that administrative rules making without legislative direction is really creating a significant cost delay and problem in getting the work done. And the scope that state offices have for administrative rulemaking without legislative oversight has really escalated lately. This one is in a county with a population density of 20 people per square mile. You can't calculate it. Now, if we were going to drop something else in here that is significant user, resource or industrial kind of a thing, then that's a completely different situation. But and truth be told, I had a conversation with Eric when we were looking at this. I'm like, what's the number of camping units that we can have without triggering this? And it would have been about half of what we want. And then the park wouldn't have been the same. And I said, we can't shortchange the project. We just have to go through this process. And then at the point that he described it to me, I wasn't aware of the rule relative to the additional work regarding or related to this, and it came up in our subsequent conversation, and SRF stepped in, did it. I'm hoping they're not going to bill us for that time. I think they're just doing it under their existing contract, but if they do, they're going to bill me $50 an hour, so it'll be okay. But yes, it is really onerous to get a project like this done, and adds unnecessarily to the cost. If we're doing wetland delineations and we're doing archaeological surveys, and the scope of when this rule would apply is entirely too narrow or too broad, and affects too many projects. But
When I read that climate change has shown increases to seasonal rainfall, I'm like, bring it on. There's not increase in rainfall here.
Yeah, we see frequently when parties contact us with projects that they're considering for development, and they're looking at scale that would require environmental review, they purposely avoid it or bring the project just under the threshold so that they can avoid this, because they know of the time it requires, which is money, as well as just the cost of providing the information. And in my opinion, it doesn't give us any more information than what we gather through the conditional use permit review process anyway. So it's just another layer of.
thus inhibiting development.
Yeah, not to get political, but the nuances of all this, if you ever read some books about climate change, is the models that they're using to determine how to regulate all make the assumption that the human contribution to climate change is potentially greater than it really is. So, that's underlying all these things, and if that assumption is not true, we're wasting a heck of a lot of money on nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I read an article yesterday about the benefits of climate change.
Yeah. I would encourage people to read The Neglected Son. It's one of the counter viewpoints to, the typical climate alarmist. And you find out it has a lot more to do with the solar cycles And there's evidence to support that the natural environment in the solar cycle has more to do with climate change than humanity could ever contribute. Not that we shouldn't, lower our carbon emissions, we certainly should, but it's not necessarily the main driver.
Well, I will make a motion to, all that Eric recommended
Resolution.
for the correct wording.
The negative declaration.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? Without going into the weeds, right?
Yes.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
And the second item I have is just in follow-up to our one of our conversations that we had at the June work session relative to how we can facilitate development by taking out some low-hanging fruit, and that would be in regard to our conditional use permit and plat application approval processes. And so I'm just asking for the board's granting permission for the Planning Commission and I to work on drafting the language needed in the shoreland and subdivision ordinances to facilitate allowing the Planning Commission to be given the authority to act on conditional use permits, and then also shortening the plating process by eliminating the Planning Commission review of final plat applications, which would shave us a month off of each of those two processes.
I agree.
Is that a motion?
Sure.
I'll second that.
One little minor technical thing that I just realized when the paperwork for this agenda item report, it says at the June 2nd work session.
It was June 9th.
And June 9th.
Yeah.
That's, sorry to be picky.
We'll update that in the minutes.
Okay, otherwise, yeah, I'll make the motion.
I'll second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
So Eric, you're still looking at 2 nights for next week?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, that's been part of the issue of probably why I missed that date is we've got 19 applications on the June Planning Commission Board of Adjustment meeting agenda, so it's been quite the month of trying to keep all the plates spinning.
And so to be clear then, there is an agenda item for the Planning Commission?
Yes,
Will that be Wednesday night or Thursday night, or, Monday night, or?
Monday night.
Okay.
Yep.
I kind of assumed, but with all these applications and stuff, yeah. All right. I'll see you Monday.
It was a test of our system to figure out how to continue a meeting, knowingly continue a meeting. So we just continued the meeting to the second day, and we didn't modify the agenda, so wherever they stop on Monday is where they'll pick up on Tuesday. And then I had to get some technical support to figure out how to create a second meeting instance for Tuesday. And then what I told Eric is Tuesday, if that's 6 o'clock, I'll just be here till 5:30 when they turn it on and make sure that it's working. But I got confirmation technically from the contractor, from our provider, that this is gonna work, so I'll hang out and make sure it turns on.
After reading this week that the average, building cost for a house is $140,000 for regulation across the US, I would invite all of us to just think, are there things we can do in Hubbard County that we could either simplify or deregulate, just on a county standpoint? And I'm not thinking of anything right at the moment, but we can always review.
There are, but, yeah.
Yeah, we're not,
Some of it would give you more administrative authority, but then there's the flip side of that they're not always comfortable with that.
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, as far as permit fees, our fees are very, very reasonable. We hear that from many contractors that work elsewhere, that they hear what we charge for a permit, and
Yeah.
they asked, are you, just to be sure, because it's so not the norm of what they're used to in a good way.
Are you seeing a theme across on the variances? Is it a lot of, I haven't looked other than I saw the, the agenda. Are there a lot of after the fact, or are people trying to be proactive?
Well, for this upcoming meeting, the majority are after the fact. So all the violations that were cited in the last year, for whatever reason, they just all decided to come in and apply all at once. So that's, but yeah, the increase in the after the fact fees that were approved last December haven't seemed to have put a dent in what people ask for, especially the smaller things that you'd really think, why would you spend the money for a small item like a deck or a platform, but they still do.
And I went on and reviewed this last week. I got a violation from your staff. And it's a new build and there was a whole bunch of violations. I'm like, I just don't get it.
We have some contractors that still aren't above board.
It's not that hard to play by the rules. I mean,
No, and even what they were, if they would have asked you, ahead of time, it probably would have been fined.
Or we could have channeled them through the right process.
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes. All right, thank you, Rick.
You're welcome.
Jeff, what do you have?
I have no particular updates right now. I've been trying to send some emails late in the week with just kind of updates, operational updates. I sent one yesterday relative to the treasurer's office.
Appreciate that.
And I just want to note that, or make sure you're getting them.
Yep.
I don't need feedback on those. It was a conversation at a department manager meeting in response to changes in election security. And we probably, well, we had to X all of you out of having access to that office because all of you could be candidates. So if you need something there, just the staff at the front window will help you.
Okay, committee reports.
I'll start because I only have one. So I had the Prime West Health Equity Council meeting last Monday, and it was really interesting. I'm just going to read you a bunch of things that we discussed. It was the first Equity Council meeting under the new leadership of Matt Magnuson. So one of the things they brought up was there's no asset test at MA, only income, and so I'll just use as example, I could have $5 million in the bank, but I don't have much for a yearly income and I would qualify for MA.
that needs to change.
However,
It does.
if I made $5 a year over the qualifying income and I had zero assets and I was dirt poor, I would just automatically be declined. So I thought that was really interesting.
That is such low-lying fruit for the legislature to fix,
I know.
which would address not only fraud, but would address the cost of health and human services.
Yep. Minnesota is number 2 in the nation for assistance. Massachusetts is number 1. So in Minnesota, the stats is every person that they give assistance to, the average is $42,000 per year per person.
Is that what the client gets?
No, that's the cost of services.
That's the cost of services.
Delivery of the
Yep.
services and everything?
Yep. So the average cost of anybody covered under Prime West in Hubbard County or any county that we represent in the 24 counties is $100 per day per person. So that would be $36,500. And that's just the base. So the extra services, would add increase. And one of the things that Matt and his staff are really exploring now is how can we motivate the people that are getting services to move forward? Because they offer a lot of things, even like healthy choices, and they actually, if I was on Prime West and I qualified for this service, I could have meals, healthy meals delivered to my door. And so they're trying to educate people even on how to eat differently because it would affect their health in a positive way. And yet they have very few people interested. So they're trying to figure out how can we move this forward?
That's the problem. What's the incentive for the?
Yeah,
for the client to learn it when they're getting it for free?
Dental in 2025, the 40% of Prime West people had dental visits. And here's what I thought was really interesting. People that private pay, only 50 to 60% of the people that aren't under some assistance are using the dentist. I found that fascinating. Prime West, 45% of enrollees are children. Behavioral health costs now exceed primary health care visits, and that's a national trend. I'll add a note on that because I actually shared this last week to the DOC, that when I was at a Health and Human Services meeting down in the cities, no, I think that was, in December, a couple years ago, and they were talking about legislative changes, and they said in the meeting, they knew that cell phones affected the behavior of the very juveniles that they were dealing with, and yet the state made it impossible to take their phone away. There's been a 7% decrease in utilization of services, and there's been a 15% increase in durable equipment. And then, I did not know this, of the $90 million that the legislature appropriated for the computer problems, that's only 20% of the cost. That's a state match. 80% of it needs to come from the federal government.
You heard at AMC District 2 that all this money is going to go for is basically a Windows shell over the
Yes.
top
Yes,
of
it's
the bad
not gonna
software to
fix
start with.
anything.
So we're just wasting $90 million
Yep.
putting a pretty face on the same software.
Yep,
This is crazy.
yep.
Same software that crashes and
Yeah,
is
it's like Windows 3.1. If anybody remembers that, that was not a lot of fun.
And so once again, even at this meeting, it was talked about how Minnesota can't just go and buy, like, for instance, because somebody that's on the Becker County Commissioner Board works for a company in Wisconsin, and Wisconsin's Health and Human Services can use this. But Minnesota can't because we have so many exceptions.
So we're gonna allocate this money based on what the county's advocated for, only to find out when we're done spending it that we didn't do anything to fix the
Anything to fix it,
problem.
yeah.
And yet, the legislature thinks they feel good about this.
Well, anyway, it was
I'm
a
just-
really interesting meeting because so much was brought up, and yet it's like, a lot of this stuff we can't fix. It has to be fixed legislatively.
And they're not fixing it, they're just putting a Band-Aid
No,
on it.
because
It's
what
not-
Jim said, but
Yeah.
just a minute,
Yep.
before Jim left, he kept saying, you know, they asked for one more report and one more report and one more report legislatively, but they have never read any of the reports underneath that already had all the information in there. And so,
This is a perfect example of where counties advocate for more money to solve a problem, and just advocating for the more money doesn't solve the problem. We just spend more money, but we get nowhere.
so anyway, it was a really
Except
interesting
more
meeting.
vote.
And Jeff, what were you gonna say? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, and I really don't want to interject during this point, but it doesn't solve some of the underlying database issues. It doesn't solve that, but it will make training staff much easier if they're put into an
Yes.
environment where the interface is, it's a partial solution. It's not great. I mean, the database needs to be updated, but we have the same problem in our payroll office because we can't buy a payroll software and just run payroll because we have so many extras and additions and exceptions because of our union contracts. So counties in the state run in the very similar way. We make ourselves so complicated, nobody can help us.
I can go, cause I don't have anything, so.
Okay.
Let's see, I had Northwest Minnesota Juvenile Center, but that was our first budget meeting this year. That went pretty well. We we tweaked a few things. Our per diems are the rates we charge are gonna go up a little bit. I had an HRDC meeting, and I didn't grab my notes and paperwork from that, I just looked for it. Kind of a funny story here, the meeting for HRDC was supposed to be this Thursday night. So last Thursday night, I'm driving home and I drive past the HRDC building and I'm thinking, oh, there's a bunch of cars there must be a meeting. And then it dawned on me, yeah, I'm supposed to be at that meeting. So I swung in, t-shirt and work pants, you know, but I made it to the meeting. And then, like I say, I left all my notes and stuff. And then the only other meeting I had was the 5-year highway plan that Steve and I attended last night. What was there, 10 people there?
Yeah, probably
12.
something like that, yeah.
You know, it was an okay turnout.
There was a fair amount of questions.
Yeah, yeah, good questions, I thought, and I thought Andrea did a really good job of presenting and everything. And that's all I had.
At that meeting, were there any that wanted some of the projects
Exchanged
flipped? Yeah, exchanged at all, or?
Not really.
No, no. I think they're just kind of realizing that, you know, it has to go through a certain process and the funding isn't always there, so it is a flexible, adjustable plan, but this is the intent, is in these certain years, we're gonna do these projects. And I
Yeah, 'cause she
appreciate,
tries to interconnect.
and I appreciate that she's trying to move projects, group them,
Yep.
to try to get a little better dollar figure on them, so I think it went well.
Yeah. Steve, what do you have?
I went on Ted's behalf to the solid waste up in Polk County. Interesting. I didn't tour the facility, but didn't have time for that. This was my first time there, so I don't know all of the data and whatnot to glean out of it, but actually recycling is down. The total volume is down quite a bit. The steam sales are down. I think that's kind of seasonal from what I gathered out of the conversation that was happening. But then there's also one purchaser of steam that is looking to downscale long-term. So the steam sales might not be as robust as previously. Landfill tonnage was down, so that was good to hear, I guess. Staff numbers are down. They're having problems with air permitting and the solid waste permit, of course. And there was a lot of discussion by multiple counties about the MPCA slapping these major modifications when that isn't what the county was asking for. It triggers other things that now you're gonna have to do more PFAS sampling, you're gonna have, so there's tens of thousands of dollars that are gonna be increased to these departments when what they asked for was something small.
Regulation.
And then one of them was Hubbard County, they're looking at expanding the reuse and moving it. Well, MPCA all of a sudden decides, well, that's gonna trigger a major modification, so you're gonna have to jump up through all these hoops in order to accomplish this.
And what
So-
does PFAS have to do with the
Yeah,
recycling?
yeah, and same thing with expanding the grinding and so forth, but they have the administrative liberty to do these things. And I can't remember which other, I think it was,
Job security.
wasn't Monoman County, but there was one other county that had the same issue. Oh, Beltrami. And they're pushing back. The counties are pushing back. So that's good to hear, and everybody's kind of united in that whole idea that we just want to make one small change. Why are you implementing all these other requirements on us now? It's not right. When that's, and they're doing it on their own. They're not taking the input from the county and saying, look, no, that's not what we're trying to accomplish here. They just open up a major modification then because you asked for one small thing. And it's not right, but they did pass all their emissions tests, which was good. Plastic, they said the number one plastic for recycling, that is, the market has just plain crashed. They're having to pay people to take number one plastic, which I thought was ridiculous.
Well, that's interesting, because they make clothes out of plastic. They do
know.
all kinds of stuff now out of
But
plastic.
just for this type of this number one plastic, there's 2, 3, 4, 5 different types of plastic, but Aluminum was at $2,200 a ton, which was quite surprising. Corrugated, or no, that's scrap metal was 120, cardboard was $55 a ton. They're finding inventive ways to use, so to say, wet cardboard that you couldn't use prior. They're using it in their compost now to try to beef up that program. There is the organics bags, the collection bags that are available. They just gave a little bit of data about that. There's over 700 households that are part of the program. And the pick rate that the robots have achieved is about 80% accuracy. And they're slowly reducing or slowly increasing that accuracy number because they're learning, their operators are learning a little bit more about how to place the garbage on the conveyor belt so that the robots can more easily scan and see what they're supposed to be picking out as far as the organics bags, and that helps with the recycling and everything else too that goes along with it.
Do they use any humans anymore, or is that all?
Yes, no, they
still
use humans too. And they were gonna do, there's a tour, I can't remember what I just wrote the acronym down, but there's a solid waste tour, I guess, that's happening, that's been coordinated by Polk County, and they're gonna visit certain sites in recycling and reuse, and then they're gonna have a meeting in Bemidji at BSU, but we have meetings at the same time that these things are going on, but they're going to visit Hubbard County on the 23rd. They're gonna be at our
Well, that sounds
our
really
site.
interesting.
So, Josh is gonna conduct the tour and talk about everything that's going on there. So I think that's beneficial. And then they were gonna go to the meeting, at BSU. Josh was probably gonna go there, and then they're gonna talk about the overall picture of the state of solid waste.
Is that the waste packaging meeting that you're talking about?
No.
That's a different one?
Yeah, that's a different one. Waste packaging, they talked about the implementation of that program, about the actual vendor having to cover more of the costs, and the full implementation is due in 2031, where the waste packagers will have to cover 90% of the cost for the recycling of their waste. So
So
it's
the
slowly,
products will cost more.
yeah, so it slowly has to step up. So, yeah, I thought it was interesting. I wish I could have toured the facility. I just didn't have time, and there was a lot of other things going on, so. But I appreciate what they're doing. I mean, they're very proactive, even pushing back against the MPCA and what they're mandating. And like, I think it's John had said, you know, I'm certainly not afraid to push back. What are they gonna do? You know, at least the voice is heard, the information gets out there, so.
Ted, are you going to the waste packaging
I
meeting?
was just gonna say that's next Thursday.
Yeah, it
and
sounds really
at
interesting.
At BSU there.
Yeah.
So I figured, I put that on my calendar.
Good, okay, because I look forward to hearing about it.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
all I had.
curious.
Is that it, Steve?
That's it.
All right, meetings coming up. Don't forget tomorrow night, June 17th, we have at 6 PM our
Oh, yeah, that's right.
County Board of Appeals and Equalization.
We need you.
Yep. Yep.
I'll be here.
COLA meeting, June 25th at 6:30. Grand opening celebration of the new Mantrap Wildlife Management Area, Thursday, June 25th at 2 PM.
And I'm gonna comment on that. I don't support it, so I'm not gonna be attending.
Well, I'm actually going because I'm curious, and then I can comment on it when it's, after I go.
Be interesting.
And that, we're supposed to meet at the boat launch for that?
Yep.
Okay.
Are
It
you
just
guys
seems
gonna
like an
go
odd
as well?
location,
I'm not gonna make it.
so
Oh, you're not gonna make it?
No.
Okay.
I'm gonna go.
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah.
And Tom is registered, and I'll be there as well.
Okay.
Pay attention to the
Or
west
they
side,
could- yes.
west side of the bay. That I was
Yeah, or
talking
we could
about.
have actually put some housing in, yep.
Basically from the boat access till you start turning east. Yeah. And if there's nothing else, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second,
Go
okay.
ahead.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.